Microsoft Build 2026 just wrapped, and it was packed. In this video, we'll walk through 63 of the biggest Azure and AI announcements, grouped into 8 categories. Let's dive in. Let's start where Build 2026 spent most of its energy. Microsoft Foundry, the platform for building AI agents and apps. The headline is Microsoft Foundry IQ, now generally available. It's a managed knowledge layer that grounds your agents in enterprise data, connecting sources like SharePoint, OneLake, and Azure Blob, so you don't rebuild a retrieval pipeline for every single project. Foundry IQ also gained a wave of new knowledge sources in preview: Azure SQL Database, a Microsoft Fabric ontology, the OneLake catalog, and even external MCP servers like Salesforce or Confluence. So your agents can ground their answers on the systems you already run. For the agent service, Hosted Agents entered preview. It's a container-based runtime that lets you bring your own agent code in any framework and deploy it on a Microsoft-managed infrastructure, each agent isolated in its own procession VM. You write the agent, Microsoft runs it. Agents can now talk to each other. Agent-to-agent support, in preview, lets a Foundry agent call another agent by name through a managed endpoint with identity and content safety handled for you. That's the foundation for composing larger multi-agent systems. Voice Live integration with the agent service went generally available. It wires real-time speech-to-text and text-to-speech straight into a Foundry agent, so you can give an agent a natural voice without building your own audio pipeline. And the Microsoft Foundry extension for Visual Studio Code reached general availability. It brings the full model catalog, a model playground, and hosted agent deployment right into the editor, so you can build and ship agents without leaving VS Code. Microsoft also refreshed its own first-party models in preview. MAI Voice 2 for natural speech with voice cloning, MAI Image 2.5 for sharper image generation, and MAI Transcribe 1.5 for more accurate speech-to-text, all available directly in the Foundry catalog. Finally, Observability got serious. New in preview, Trace Replay rewinds a captured agent run step by step. Rubric and benchmark evaluators measure agent quality, and a code-first observability loop runs right inside VS Code. Debugging agents is no longer guesswork. Foundry Memory got a preview refresh, a redesigned storage model, new retrieval controls, and tighter integration with the agent service. Agents can write, search, and update user scope memories, so they carry context across a conversation instead of starting cold every time. As toolboxes grow, sending every tool to the model gets expensive. Tool Search, in preview, helps agents find the right tool inside a large catalog, while new connectors and time-based triggers let you build event-driven agents, not just ones you invoke by hand. And managed virtual network support for evaluations went GA. You can run cloud evaluation jobs against models and agents that sit behind private endpoints, with Foundry handling the secure outbound connectivity, so testing doesn't force you to open your network. Microsoft also launched Microsoft Discovery at general availability, an enterprise platform for building and governing agentic AI workflows across scientific and engineering disciplines. It's aimed at research and development teams who want to put agents to work on real discovery problems with governance built in. And on cost, Global provision throughput reservations became region agnostic at GA. A single PTU reservation can now apply across multiple regions, so you improve utilization and savings without locking your committed AI capacity to one region. Next, the applied AI services search, speech, translator, and language all shipped big updates. Azure AI Search introduced serverless indexers in preview. You no longer provision or manage indexer compute. It scales with your ingestion workload, so you stop paying for idle capacity. Simpler and cheaper ingestion for your RAG pipelines. Also in AI search, the Gen AI prompt skill went GA. It lets indexers call a chat completion model during enrichment. No custom code, so you can summarize, classify, or extract from documents inline as they're indexed. And private end-to-end connectivity for AI search and Foundry knowledge bases reach GA. Ingestion, enrichment, retrieval, and agent traffic can all flow over shared private link, keeping your RAG pipeline off the public internet. AI search added content understanding, chunking, and image verbalization in preview. Indexers can split documents into semantically meaningful chunks and generate text descriptions of images, which means cleaner, richer inputs for retrieval and better answers from your agents. For enterprise content, the SharePoint indexer now covers ASPX pages and lists, keeps document permissions in sync incrementally, and honors Microsoft Purview sensitivity labels, so your search results respect the access controls and classifications you already have. Azure AI Translator shipped a unified text translation API at GA, a single endpoint fronting neural machine translation, LLM translation, and adaptive custom translation, with new SDKs for C#, Java, JavaScript, and Python. One door for all your translation. Translator also expanded document translation at GA. It now translates text inside images, including images embedded in Word files and standalone PDFs. It runs OCR, translates, and re-renders the result, preserving the original layout. Great for real-world documents, not just plain text. Azure AI Speech made its LLM Speech API generally available. It delivers LLM-powered transcription and translation for audio across 25 languages and 90-plus locales, with noticeably higher accuracy, state-of-the-art speech recognition as a managed API. Speech also brought avatars and custom voice into the Foundry portal at GA, self-serve photo avatars from single image, custom neural voice authoring, and an upgraded neural HD voice model. Branded voice and talking head video without a custom pipeline. And the Speech SDK version 1.50 shipped as a stable, generally available release across every supported language, rolling up the latest speech-to-text and text-to-speech features behind one consistent API surface. And Azure AI Language brought its next-generation text analytics for Health Playground to GA, alongside updated PI detection playgrounds. Clinical teams can paste notes and get structured medical entities, and developers can validate PI redaction before they ship. Databases had a huge build, including a brand new flagship and a flood of AI features. The big database reveal, Azure Horizon DB, in preview. It's It's a PostgreSQL-compatible service engineered for scale, auto-scaling storage up to 128 terabytes and up to 3 times the performance of self-managed Postgres. Microsoft's answer for cloud-scale Postgres. HorizonDB also launched AI-native features in preview, declarative AI pipelines you describe in SQL, BM25 full-text search, and advanced filtering for disk and in-vector search. It's built to be a RAG-ready database from day one. Azure Document DB went generally available, an open-source, MongoDB-compatible document database. It added advanced full-text search, multi-shard change streams, graceful zero-data loss failover, a VS Code migration extension, and instant free tier clusters to get started. DocumentDB also added an MCP toolkit in preview, so AI agents can query your data through the Model Context Protocol, plus a cross-platform Docker-based Linux emulator for local development. Building and testing on DocumentDB just got a lot easier. Azure Database for PostgreSQL got a batch of GA upgrades, finer maintenance control with reschedule and on-demand apply, the DuckDB and PG_IVM extensions, and cross-tenant customer-managed keys for encryption across intratenants. Postgres also gained Microsoft Defender security assessments that continuously evaluate your database posture, pre-upgrade validation checks before a major version jump, and Oracle to Postgres schema conversion in VS Code, all aimed at safer, smoother operations. Azure Cosmos DB leaned into AI-integrated embeddings that auto-generate and maintain vectors with no separate pipeline, an agent kit that bakes best practices into your coding agents, and new vaulted backups for cyber resilience. All in preview. Cosmos DB also shipped the Linux emulator vNext at GA, a lightweight, cross-platform, Docker-based emulator for the NoSQL API. You could develop and test against Cosmos DB locally on any platform, without provisioning a cloud account. Azure SQL added ES 256 symmetric keys for transparent data encryption with customer-managed keys, plus developer tooling, SQL notebooks, a data API builder, and GitHub Copilot inside the Schema Designer, all in the MS SQL extension for VS Code. An Azure database for MySQL Flexible Server expanded at GA. New regions and availability zones including Denmark East, Austria East, and Belgium, plus a self-service quota management experience right in the Azure portal. Broader reach and easier capacity management. On the compute side, Azure Functions, Container Apps, and Azure Linux all move forward. Azure Functions added a serverless agents runtime in preview. You author event-driven AI agents using a Markdown-first programming model, and Functions runs them as a first-class workload, bringing the serverless scale model to agentic apps. Functions also gained managed connectors in preview, the same 1,400 plus connector ecosystem behind Logic Apps and Power Platform, now available as first-class triggers and actions. Connect to Office, SaaS, and line of business systems without glue code. There's more from Functions. Go is now a first-class language in preview. You can host Model Context Protocol apps with rich interactive responses and Node.js 24 reach GA, plus built-in Grafana dashboards for zero setup monitoring. And the Flex consumption plan added rolling updates at GA. Instead of forcefully restarting every instance on a deploy, the platform updates them gracefully, so a code or config change ships with zero downtime from a single setting. Azure Container Apps introduced sandboxes in preview, a way to safely run untrusted or AI-generated code, preserve state across sessions, and handle bursty demand. It's purpose-built for agentic apps and multi-tenant platforms that execute code they didn't write. Azure Linux 4.0 entered preview. Microsoft's first-party Linux distribution, now with the 6.18 LTS kernel and the DNF5 package manager. And Azure Container Linux, an immutable container-optimized OS, went GA for AKS node pools. And on the VM side, Confidential Live Migration was announced for Intel TDX confidential VMs. It lets a confidential VM move during host servicing instead of being paused, improving availability for your most sensitive, hardware-isolated workloads. On Silicon, the Cobalt 200 ARM-based virtual machines entered preview. The DPSV7, EPS7, and MPSV4 series built on Microsoft's own ARM processors, delivering significant gains over the previous Cobalt 100 generation for general-purpose and memory-heavy workloads. Automatic OS image upgrades came to virtual machine scale sets using flexible orchestration in preview. It extends consistent, fleet-wide operating system updates to VMSS Flex, so keeping your scale set instances patched takes far less manual effort. And guest RDMA on Azure Boost entered preview. By enabling remote direct memory access in the guest operating system, applications get high throughput, ultra latency networking that bypasses the host network stack, a real boost for HPC and tightly coupled distributed workloads. Build also pushed hard on the analytics and lakehouse story, centered on Databricks and OneLake. Azure Databricks added a workspace-wide Genie MCP endpoint in preview. Any Microsoft Copilot Studio agent can ask natural language questions across an entire Databricks workspace through a single endpoint, which auto-routes across your connected Genie spaces. Your lakehouse, queryable in plain English. Databricks also introduced lake-based branching with GitHub Copilot Agent Mode in preview. With one command, you create a copy-on-write branch of your production database, point Copilot's agent mode at it, and debug AI apps against realistic data without touching production. And Databricks deepened its tie to Microsoft Fabric. Native read access to OneLake through Unity Catalog went GA, and writing managed Delta tables to OneLake entered preview. Together, they form a genuine two-way bridge, sharing a single copy of your data across both worlds. Build is a developer conference, so naturally the tooling, VS Code, GitHub Copilot, and the SDKs got a lot of love. GitHub Copilot app modernization went generally available. It coordinates from your estate down to the code, assessing and upgrading applications across your entire portfolio with Copilot, so modernization scales past one project at a time. The MSSQL extension for VS Code made several Copilot integrations GA AI in the Schema Designer, a data API builder that generates REST, GraphQL, and MCP endpoints, and the ability to provision a free Azure SQL database right from the editor. And SQL Server Management Studio got agent mode for GitHub Copilot in preview. The agent actively works with your database, investigating performance, tuning queries, reviewing configuration, and flagging security concerns, like an AI assistant sitting inside SSMS. Postgres developers got smoother tooling, Oracle to Postgres schema conversion, right in VS Code, pre-upgrade validation checks before a major version upgrade, and a new PostgreSQL hub that gathers sample apps, accelerators, and learning paths in one place. The Azure Functions extension for VS Code also got a redesign, create new project experience in preview, a rich, visual template gallery that replaces the old multi-step wizard with a searchable, filterable view. Starting a functions project is now a lot quicker. The Azure Developer CLI added an observability and evaluation experience in preview. It gives you a measured quality loop for agents built with Foundry. Create, provision, deploy, and evaluate, all from the As command line. For the connective tissue, API management, event grid, and the integration layer, Build had some genuinely useful additions. Azure API Management introduced a unified model API in preview, as teams adopt multiple LLM providers, each with different formats and SDKs. This gives you one consistent API, simplifying provider switching, failover, and governance across all your models. API Management Premium v2 and Standard v2 also added wildcard custom host names at GA. Instead of configuring a domain and certificate for every subdomain, one wildcard covers them all, a real relief as your API estate grows. Azure Event Grid added MQTT version 5 subscription identifier support at GA. Each subscription can carry an identifier that's delivered with incoming messages, so client applications can route events immediately, handy for high-throughput IoT scenarios. And finally, the operations and security layer, Azure Monitor, resiliency, and a few key security moves. Azure Monitor made native ODLP ingestion generally available. You can send OpenTelemetry protocol telemetry directly from instrumented apps to Azure Monitor, embracing the open standard with no proprietary agent required. Azure Monitor also added service-level indicators and objectives at GA. Instead of relying only on infrastructure signals like CPU, you can measure how customers actually experience your app and track it against the objectives you set. Two more Monitor wins at GA: a simplified simple log alert experience and dynamic threshold for log search alerts that learn the right threshold for each rule. Less manual tuning and fewer false alarms. Azure Infrastructure Resiliency Manager arrived in preview, a unified, goal-driven experience to design, assess, and improve application resiliency. It pulls together availability zones, Azure Advisor, and chaos testing in one place. On the security front, Azure Confidential Clean Rooms previewed multi-party analytics, a fully managed service where you and your partners can analyze privacy-sensitive datasets together using Apache Spark without exposing the raw data to each other. Azure Confidential Ledger added a backup tool at GA. Auditors, like a security analyst or an external assessor, can now view your ledger files and verify the cryptographic proofs themselves, giving you tamper-evident records that stand up to independent audit. And on storage and security, Azure Files made intra-only identities for SMB access generally available, so you can secure file shares with cloud-native identities, no Active Directory required. Preview support even extends that to Mac OS. And that's a wrap on Build 2026 to 63 updates across 8 categories. The links to the official docs are in the description. Which announcement are you most excited about? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for the deep dives.